This video was recommended in the Discord, I believe. Maybe it was a message to me, I'm not sure, but I think the thumbnail guaranteed it's gonna be amazing. The alt-right pipeline almost got me. Here's why it failed. It's gonna be a 25-minute long video about his soy intake. This is genetically modified skeptic. The video got 373,000 views over the last 3 days, and he has 791,000 subs. What was his first? The armored skeptic in the bottom left is hilarious. Fake skeptic. He thinks knowledge is possible. Fake skeptic. Bullied. That's gonna be himself, right? That's gonna be himself. Yeah? I wonder what his first ever video was. Or the first ever video that is still up. 5 similarities between religion and alternative medicine. Okay. How alternative medicine pushed me to atheism. Did you take the logic suppository? I remember I went into a Chinese medicine place, and I told them I have autism and asked if they had anything for it, and they said yes, but it will take a long time to work. And that was on a live stream, so some of you may have seen it. That was an IRL live stream. They said they can cure it, but it will take a long time. Is atheism prideful? Okay. He is a proper full-on Reddit atheism man. For real. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Alright, let's go.
So, you've probably noticed, I'm a young white man with a YouTube channel called something.
Young? Hang on. Young. I'll give him white and man. Young? How old are you, brother? First video 8 years ago. Yeah, he looks like he could just be a teen here. Okay, so he's early 20s, I guess. Young enough. Young enough.
Something skeptic. So at my 25th birthday...
He's in his 30s, says Hexathian. If you can't figure out how to join my Discord, you don't deserve to be in my Discord. Sorry, brother. Hex? I probably shouldn't, but I trust Hex's commentary regarding things like age on any man. Because he has, like, gay powers, and I presume that's one of them.
Party, my friends and I played a game where 2 people at a time would compete to make the other person laugh exclusively by insulting them. And the very first line dropped on me was, Drew...
Is he genetically modified skeptic just because he's a huge advocate of GMO?
You named your YouTube channel Genetically Modified Skeptic. Yeah, he had that one in the chamber before we started playing, I'm sure. I was raised conservative Christian. I became an atheist at 21 years old. Quickly got into...
Oh, so he presumably... is in his 30s. What do you mean, young man?
Watching atheist YouTube in 2016.
That's cope. This guy's gonna have an early midlife crisis. I think if you're in your 30s and you describe yourself as a young man, something's going wrong. Compared to like there are old people who'd be like, look, you whippersnapper, you are a young man. But I would not go out of my way to describe myself as a young man. And I don't think he was joking.
Then made my own atheist YouTube channel, and within a couple years became one of the larger channels in that space. So how the fuck did I not get fully pulled into the alt-right? A quick reminder, I'll be at...
Why would you? Do you think it's just like a force of nature?
The American Atheist National Convention.
Probably. Probably. If he's a Reddit atheist, the answer is probably.
In Minneapolis, Minnesota, April 17th through the 20th. Get your tickets now through the link in the description to come hang out with me, Taylor, and some other atheist YouTubers you probably know. So my focus in this video stems from my understanding that the alt-right pipeline operates primarily on 2 factors: appeals to male grievances and algorithmic radicalization. Basically, that the alt-right draws its power from men resenting
He's describing it like sci-fi.
Something or someone, and attracts many of these men through a pipeline of increasingly inflammatory online content. What I'll do here then is tell some stories that shed light on why I didn't develop various male grievances.
It's like a Diablo 3 character. I require more rage.
And how that affected the way I interacted with alt-right online content as a younger adult.
Sacrifice 10 incels to increase the purity of your nation.
God is dead, and I'm gay. Hi, everybody.
Here's one my mom always loved to tell about.
I appreciate the clipping. I appreciate
Apparently,
it.
when I was
Pretty
3,
good.
my family visited my grandparents' house, and while my grandpa...
Oh, this is actually just going to be a personal deep dive? Oh, God, it's going to be like... It's going to be his... Oh, shit! It's going to be his personal experience with Armored Skeptic content. Let's go!
I were playing, he said something about teaching me to wrestle. I famously replied...
Okay, this is gonna get real dark
Apparently,
real fast.
when I was 3, my family visited my grandparents' house, and while my grandpa and I were playing, he said something about teaching me to wrestle.
I'm good.
I famously replied, "Papa, I'm a lover, not a fighter." And the women in the room thought that was adorable, while the men sighed in disappointment.
Is the thing, I don't believe this is real, and I'm also like, this is weird fan
Personally,
fiction.
I like that story, and yeah, I'd say that still basically describes me accurately. A couple years later, I made my first best friend, a very cool and very smart girl from my church, and we stayed best friends until I moved churches at 11 years old. A lot of my other friends were girls too. I can't remember any reason for this other than I liked hanging out with
What are the odds in the next 3 minutes he comes out as trans?
them more, and in almost all cases, they didn't have anything to do with having crushes on them. Throughout my childhood, I was bullied, physically and verbally, for being small. I'm 5'8".
Neil deGrasse Tyson moment? Verbal bullying can be understood as a form of physical bullying. After all, is your brain not physical matter? Is the air vibrating not physical?
Today, not tall, but not that short, but I grew very slowly, like very, very slowly. So
I didn't join the alt-right because I grew wrong.
kids would pick on me for that pretty often. When I first went into my church youth group at 12, boys and adult men started bullying me for another new reason. I was too feminine. Why are you sitting like that? Sit like a man. Don't talk like that. Why don't you like football? What's wrong with you? Oh, rollerblading is so gay. Pick a real sport. You know,
I thought it was meant to be facts and science. That's just real. That's just real.
you're really
That's just true.
scrawny. Your wrists look like a girl. Your eyes look like a girl. And every one of my friend's dad's favorite, you need to cut your hair. You look like a girl. I didn't have long hair. I have decidedly left out
Yeah, you should shave your head. Obviously.
homophobic slurs here, but I assure you, I was called them. I usually talk to my parents when this happened, so all the time, and they taught me that bullying behavior stems from the insecurity of the bullies. I didn't deserve that treatment
They taught you that, but do you think it's true? I think many times it's true. I don't think it's inherently true.
because of something I did. The bullies were hurt, scared, self-hating, had something to compensate for, and they treated me badly to make themselves feel
Some of them are just mean, right? Some of them are just tribal, in-group, out-group stuff.
strong and superior for once. This is basically true, and it was a great
Why didn't you bully? Surely, if that's true, you should be the bullying one, right?
lesson for my parents. Internalizing that has been an overall good for me. It prepared me for when
Some people bully, I think, just because they haven't faced consequences. What becomes normal to them gets harsher and harsher and rougher on other people if they're never challenged.
Christian got
I think there are loads of ways people become bullies and end up engaging in bullying behavior. I think there are loads of paths. I think it's silly to reduce it to the idea that that's because they're insecure.
guys like John from What Do You Meme, David Wood, Kwaku, Cameron Bertuzzi of Capturing Christianity started mocking me for my appearance, and John even dressed up as me and did a homophobic lisping voice for a video. I don't know what to tell you guys.
What
If
the fuck?
you are struck by my overwhelming femininity to the point that you have to use your ministry to comment on it, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. Genetically modified
Even
skeptic.
dressed up as me and did a homophobic lisping voice,
Who is
mocking
he?
me from Wood. Kwaku, Cameron Bertuzzi of Capturing Christianity started mocking me for my appearance, and John even dressed up as me and
I get, like, challenged person vibes from this guy. Who's the black guy? Because if this is just some spastic... Yeah, hang on. Good idea. A big part of the atheism stuff, right, is bullying retards. It's bullying. It's fine, but a huge part of atheism online is just finding Christians who are also retarded and bullying them. And like mocking them and bullying them via having them come at you and like just showing them as a spectacle. So I don't know how to judge this because I don't know who this guy is, but he definitely gives me Dementoid vibes.
me and did a homophobic lisping voice for a video. I don't know what to tell you guys. If you
These sorts of videos are just, I watched a Ben Shapiro video one time, but I managed to get out. Yeah. I mean, he's even saying it almost got me. It almost got me. Hey, genetically modified skeptic, can I see your discussions on R and K selection strategies?
are struck by my
How far in did you go?
overwhelming femininity to the point that you have to use your ministry to comment
off. His channel is not called What Do You Meme. Stop it. Stop it. Oh, is that actually him?
Drew's channel has grown pretty popular as of late as he...
Doesn't immediately strike me as a Dementor. Oh!
You ever wondered what it would sound like if theists started arguing like atheists? I would just love to believe, and I'm really open to being convinced otherwise. I just need you to give me a single shred of evidence that I'm wrong. Nope, not convinced. I'm not saying your views are wrong. I'm just saying that I lack belief that you're right. Ha! Equal rights? If you were born in Saudi Arabia, you would...
Okay, it's... Okay.
On it. Maybe there's a journey that...
You just got destroyed personally. You have to call it homophobic because that's the only way you can cope with being ripped into, being hit. This impression hits. It slaps. It's not his fault that accurately parodying you comes across as a homophobic stereotype playing out. That's your fault, okay?
You need to take. Like, you see features in me that you enjoy in women, and that's...
Hexathian trying to debate me into letting him suck my dick.
Like, you see features in me that you enjoy in women, and that's a problem? I mean, a problem for who, really?
Scared, Daddy?
In fact, there are a lot of men that watch my channel that tell me that I'm pretty, and honestly, you could just be among them if you want. Anyway, as a teenager, one of the ways I avoided the bullying was to sit out some stereotypically masculine activities and make friends with...
Doesn't come across as effeminate so much as it comes across as intensely conflict averse, which I guess lines up with his "I'm a lover, not a fighter" statement.
With girls instead. All of my close friends have heard me describe this particular scene before. At youth group on Wednesday nights, we'd play a game in the church gym before the sermon.
First, Grandpa's wrestling lessons, then the games. Okay.
When the game was dodgeball, most of the girls would sit on the bleachers.
But I'd never dodge balls.
And talk instead of playing. A lot of the time, the guys got really aggressive. I would often join them and would...
I apologize. Any gay-themed pun is homophobia to the atheists, I believe. Big A atheist TM. I'm an atheist myself, but I'm not one of these friends.
Be the only guy not to play most of the time. Again, this meant I made friends with girls. I had several guy friends, but I always had close friendships with girls too. Now, just as plenty of full-grown men do, the boys in my youth group saw female attention as a sign of masculine attractiveness, of manhood. But then, when these boys saw that I spent more time with girls than they did, because girls were nicer to me, they said it was because I was a girl. I was too feminine for true manhood.
I do have a question. Hex will know the answer. Is he gay, though? I don't actually have the answer to that currently. I can't tell.
All of these experiences got the wheels turning in my teenage brain. I started to see these purposely, overtly masculine men and...
He's married to a woman? Yeah, but...
boys as people who dogmatically hold themselves and others to an arbitrary standard of...
What if he's married to a woman just, like, because he's too scared to ask a man out?
Masculinity. They do this because they've seen other men impose ridiculous standards of masculinity on others. They feel insecure about their ability to meet those standards, so they attempt to conform and belittle those who don't as a way to manage their...
This is cope. This is itself a way to mitigate your sensation of insecurity. Things that hurt me only happened because those people are lesser than me, is what this is. But you're too much of a bitch to bring it up to them in your face. This is doing what they're doing behind their back because you're a little bitch. It's actual projection.
Their negative feelings resulting from their insecure sense of masculinity. Basically, the aesthetic performance of masculinity, or maybe better put, a hyperfixation on the aesthetic performance of masculinity in my mind, my teenage mind, was...
Yeah, but in your teenage mind, them doing that is all that they are. To them, that's 10 seconds on Tuesday. You have this, like, seething internal, mythology of these people, you don't know if they're hyperfixated on it. How much time were you spending with these guys who were mean to you? Probably not a lot.
Often linked to non-physical forms of personal weakness. Lack of grounded sense of self, lack of moral character, lack of intelligence sometimes. Not always, of course.
Damn. The people who were mean to me and made me feel bad actually only did so because they're so much worse than me in all of these ways. Look how great I am. Come on, man. Come on.
I've known masculine people who are not that way, obviously, but they always give off a very different vibe right away. This lesson would prove impactful.
So join us.
Right away, like when you see them, what features do you see? How fast? How fast?
And together we'll end women. Women? What's that?
Fast forward to
The big rat, he goes, huh. You know, the other rat, he comes in and he's like,
2016. I'm a baby atheist who just started watching Skeptic and Atheist YouTube. After watching enough Armored Skeptic, I ended up with the vague idea that feminism might be going too far. I thought, maybe this...
If Armored Skeptic even begins to radicalize you, it's over. It's done. You're not a person. You have to give up. You have to you have to you have to acknowledge that you might just be a cog. Like,
whole anti-SJW thing that I've been hearing about has some merit. So I quite deliberately decided to check out this anti-SJW thing by watching some Thunderfoot videos about...
After watching 200 Thunderfoot videos about Anita Sarkeesian, you know, I really started to...
feminist SJWs, particularly against BuzzFeed feminists, I guess they called them back then, and the supposedly awful Anita
BuzzFeed feminists are totally a thing.
Sarkeesian.
You don't remember? That was totally a genre of internet person, in the same way that the anti-SJWs or the skeptics are. That's real.
And dear God. Okay, the main thing I remember about this experience was I was driving, came to a stop, put on one of these videos to listen.
Thunderfoot is woke, okay? I was on a live stream with him once, and I've only been on a live stream with him once. And I made a joke about being able to change a lesbian's mind, and he was like, that's not how it works. Like, I didn't suggest corrective rape or something, it was a joke about, haha, I'm so smooth. And he was just properly like, that's not how it works.
Blitz Raider fed the streamer a 2-pound superberry.
Thank you,
The
Blitz
soy is
Raider.
oozing off this homosexual pair.
He's a straight man. He's not comfortable enough in his masculinity to be gay.
Listened to, you know, plugged into the aux, very quickly heard him just call a woman a bitch as his main argument. I made a...
Wait, who as their main argument?
I made a face and then just continued.
He had to tell us that he made a disapproving face. We're on meta virtue signaling. Making a face. Reading Mein Kampf on the train, but constantly frowning and shaking my head so everyone knows I don't agree with it. But he had to tell us that he made the face, because of course we couldn't see it.
Drive with that face stuck that way for the remaining 8 minutes or whatever of the video. Yeah, it was an instantly regrettable experience. Pretty immediate.
I don't believe, by the way, unless I missed something through my pause ending. If he's still talking about Thunderfoot is like too much of an autistic skeptoid to call someone a bitch as his main argument. I don't think that would happen. I don't think he'd allow himself.
Immediately, I saw that Thunderfoot did the same thing that the...
By the way, if it's an argument surrounding public perception of a person, them being a bitch would be a fine core argument, by the way. Just saying.
Men and boys that bullied me had done. He mocked feminine people and presented himself as more rational, even though his arguments were not rational at all.
Such as?
Become a member.
Thank you,
I'm
Amaebi.
shaking my head in stern disapproval right now.
What is he going to give us an example?
The idea that he was, in fact, more logical than these feminists ultimately relied on his male audience just presuming that he was, because he's a man, and that his emotional outbursts were not cringy rants like the feminists did.
Bro has emotions. I think I've seen him emotional and stuff, but like, may I have an example?
But were instead frank and logical refutations of irrationality, because deep voice and facial hair means that argument better. This was effectively an argument from aesthetics, and as I engaged with—
And you presumably like the leftoid sphere of YouTube? They openly, deliberately do that on purpose.
Anti-SJW.
They openly claim that that's their strategy. That's how their propaganda works.
Content further, I saw that it was primarily an aesthetic performance of both gender norms and intellectual superiority, which was ultimately void of substance. Dark Matter 2525 made an excellent video about how he stopped being anti-woke and included an incredible segment about this exact thing. You've got to watch that video.
About Thunderfoot.
You've all seen this.
Oh, he's going to give me some.
Image. This is the face of a billion thumbnails, still used on uploads and memes to this day. Have you ever seen the source material? It's quite short.
There's not rapists coming into just because they're refugees doesn't mean they're fucking rapists. And no, but they're raping people in Germany. My parents are immigrants. I got a story. My fucking parents are immigrants. No, not even a fucking big percentage. Tiny.
How many women in the U.S.
get raped? Do you know how many?
1 in every 3
Fuck
women.
ton. A fuck ton.
All American.
That's
What am I meant to take from this?
That's a crisis. There's a rape crisis. Exactly.
Damn, we really need to not increase the ratio of men to women in the US. I agree. Shut the border.
Woman did not get triggered or belligerent. She was the only one in the argument actually offering statistics rather than emotions.
Statistics rather than emotions. Sorry. Hang on, we're critiquing performative intellectualism and scientism. Is that what we're critiquing here? Because what the fuck are you showing me? Am I meant to be against this dark matter guy or for him, given what the fuck you've just shown us?
There's one frame in which she made a funny face.
Yeah.
Now, her entire existence is encapsulated by that.
Not really.
That's how absurd the anti-SJW movement
No one's even thinking about who she actually is. Like you said, many people will not even be aware of the source material. It's the expression itself that matters, not her as a person. I don't know. Are these people actually genuinely stupid? I don't want to invoke media literacy, but holy fuck.
Came when they saw.
Does he have an hour-long video on the plight of the Soyak?
Offense.
Getting bullied.
These two men were excited for a vegan option. They weren't forcing it on you, and yet their entire existence has been encapsulated by this traced cartoon of their reaction. A single frame, a still image. Shut up.
In the way I was often pushes young men toward the alt-right or anti-woke or whatever you want to call it, because it causes them immense pain and tells them that the only way to cope is to become a posturing masculine bully yourself. I was fortunate enough to have people in my life to help me find another path early on.
Okay.
And that eventually acted as a sort of...
At least he's aware that he's not like a full person. At least he is aware that he's not capable of, spending some alone time and you distancing yourself from overt influence itself being an influence that is more about you and who you are. It has to be like, I had other guides. I have to be led. Granted, even in doing that, the alone time thing, the thinking alone, you're going to be influenced by what you've seen so far. But the hands that mold the clay of who he is must be others' hands, always. Never his own.
Inoculation against this particular type of right-wing radicalization.
Inoculation.
On top of all this, sometime in 2016 or early 2017, I heard Armored Skeptic discuss why he and other creators shifted away from talking about religion and toward discussing hot-button political issues.
Let's go. Is it going to be views? What's it going to be? Here we go.
The gist was... there's only so much to talk about with religion. We've done it all, and now we have to move on to something that's...
I mean, okay. Done all that he's willing to spend the time to understand covering. And I'd say that's probably true.
It's more relevant. As someone who grew up super religious, who had their entire being consumed by religion at times, I thought that was an incredibly ignorant take. Like, no, Greg,
Maybe you're the ignorant one. He's talking about it as like a media strategy. The way you've presented it, maybe he isn't doing this. The way you've presented it to me makes it sound like he thinks this content is done to death. There's nothing more to do. Not necessarily nothing at all, but nothing that would be good content.
Sargon, Thunderfoot, the Four Horsemen did not say everything there is to say about religion in like 10 books and 200 YouTube videos. That just shows how little you actually know about the subject and or how little creativity you really possess. Even I can think of 1,000 topics you haven't covered well.
Would people want to watch it? Would people want to watch his coverage of it, the way he'd do it?
Maybe I should start a YouTube channel about that. I came across a comment under that video addressing Greg that said something along the lines of, let's be real, you guys know that videos that make people angry get views. So when you found a topic that makes men angrier than even religion does, you changed up your content to make more money. That resonated with me. I realized...
Yes, he was talking about it as a media strategy. Yeah.
Somehow, for the first time, that YouTubers obviously make content decisions based on views, based on ad revenue. So not only did anti-SJW content contain horrible arguments based on aesthetics and arbitrary gender norms usually, but it was also made to stir up anger so that content creators could get more views. Anti-SJW content then was a money-making scheme, not good faith content about...
False dichotomy. You're supposed to be a logic lord, right? It can either be good faith or a scheme to make money. You see how it could be both?
Skepticism and...
Now, these two things can come into conflict. And it's worth considering the possibility of one undermining the other. They don't have to, though, do they?
Critical thought. Naturally, I tried to avoid it from that point on.
The future is utterly bleak. Everybody dies. Life is rough. Life is tough. Penis Prager has had enough.
All this said, I don't think that the intellectual process I just described...
Do you think he ever names who the bullies were anywhere? Do you think I could make like a fake account and comment pretending to be the bully and tell him, nah man, you've got it wrong. I only did that because, you know, the real source of my bullying came from me being gay. Bullying actually comes from being gay. That's what I was insecure about.
Wholly explains why I didn't buy alt-right propaganda. Men that fall down that pipeline, from what I've read, often feel stress related to social isolation, lack of personal fulfillment. Sometimes they lack educational and economic opportunities. This makes them more vulnerable to those who play on...
Is that a dog whistle? Probably not, because he's talking about the alt-right.
On anger and outrage for views. I, meanwhile, have been very fortunate in my life. I was able to attend the college I wanted to attend as soon as I wanted to attend it. The guys in my dorm were immediately and overwhelmingly kind and accepting to me. My bullying ended first day of college. I had friends on day one, and while I was never popular on campus or anything, I always had friends. I found a degree I wanted to work toward, and I got good grades. My chronic illness definitely caused problems constantly, but for the most part, my professors were willing to work with me. My academic advisor was incredible, and she even helped me work through some of the personality issues I had developed as a result of getting bullied as a kid.
How much bullying? If he developed personality issues from bullying, I think he must have undersold the bullying really heavily.
Yeah, and I got a girlfriend freshman year and very quickly got serious with her. Now she's been my wife for almost 10 years.
Damn.
So, yeah, I don't even know what it's
Young
like
man, by
to
the
be
way.
worried about being alone or not being able to find someone to build a life with. I'm not sure it's even possible to be luckier than I've been in that regard. By the way, you can check out my wife's great YouTube channel.
I swear to God, he was like, by the way, you can check out my wife's OnlyFans? Are we allowed to comment on her breasts?
Right here.
Or is that not... Are they not in the image for any, you know, societal perception of gender-related reasons at all?
Right after college, we made like 16K a year, but rent was a lot cheaper back in
$16,000. How much would that have been then? Like £12,000 each or together? Hang on, wait, what?
We made like, by the way, you can check out my wife's great YouTube channel right here. Right after college, we made like 16K a year, but rent was a lot cheaper back in
each is bad. Together is what the
2015, and our parents paid for our cars and provided us with a safety net, so we weren't ever really stressed about money.
You're conforming to the stereotype of,
I really liked my job at.
The alt-right response could simply be, you're not correctly viewing us as having these pressures that are making us this way. You have been shielded from reality. Is he going to recognize that and address it, or?
The Christian women and children's shelter, regardless of how little money I made, and found it extremely personally fulfilling. I became an atheist while working there, and while it was stressful to have to hide that, I think the sense of purpose I derived from work—
This motherfucker has a plaque somewhere in his house that says "Live, Laugh, Love." I guarantee it. GM Skeptic, start a stream right now. Show me your whole house. It's in there. It's in there. You have one.
Working with kids who really needed me kept me from having a more existential crisis. I was fairly angry as a teenager because of the religious repression and the bullying, but as a young adult, I was mostly happy and regularly felt like I was so fortunate that I should live my life in a way that spreads that fortune around. Any grievances I had were about the suffering of other people. I simply did not have the problem
certain other people
that a lot of radicalized young men seem to have. This meant that when I encountered alt-right content, I usually didn't see the creators' anger as at all relatable. When they said some minority group was to blame for my problems, I thought, what problems?
But my mom pays for that.
When they said,
but my mom pays for that though.
Women are the reason men like me are struggling and lonely, that felt totally absurd in my situation. When they delighted in harassing and hurting others, I didn't see those as justified acts of payback, but as unnecessary cruelty. To be clear,
it's unnecessary. Just look, whatever problems there are, just have your mom pay for it.
Not saying that young right-wing men have been wronged by minorities or social justice movements, but that since I wasn't, I didn't go alt-right. I think the pain, loneliness, financial stress, etc. that many of them feel is real, but it is better explained as a result of increasing exploitation of the working class, commodification of human interaction in the social dating app age, and divisive ideology spread by the ultra-wealthy.
Nice opinion. Did you get it from another YouTuber? Did you get it from a YouTuber you desperately hope comments under your video?
Wealthy, looking at you, Ben Shapiro, and your backers, to turn working people against each other. Basically, I think a bunch of wealthy patriarchal shitbags created young men's problems, then sold them the idea that someone else was to blame so that those wealthy shitbags could keep exploiting everyone.
It's not YouTube. Did you get that from a Facebook political cartoon?
I was lucky enough to be insulated from most of those problems, so I was less vulnerable.
Damn. And the rich capitalists, they don't want these immigrants, right? That's what they're tricking the young white men to get rid of these immigrants, and so these people don't want them out, right? All of them. Or is maybe there's something funny going on in your model of the world?
Alt-right indoctrination. Still, though, I am glad that I was not exposed to the daily wire.
I'm not suggesting that the alt-right model is correct. I'm just suggesting that perhaps yours perhaps there are little holes in this hyper. Granted, obviously, that's his view in a nutshell, but still, I think you can fit something better in a nut.
When I was younger. It's a good thing that Ben Shapiro was not, in my YouTube feed when I was 13 or whatever. God.
I'd say my feminist credentials are beyond question.
Woke, if you will.
Now, this isn't the end of the story, because even after starting my channel in 2017, anti-SJW type ideas still had some influence on me, even if
there's better be actual vinyl records and not displayed. One would hope, because of the player on his left, that they are, but
I didn't really realize.
Also, I've got a very small amount of vinyl, very small. I have Symbolic by Death. I have Flying Home by Stanley Jordan. What's it called? I don't even remember what it's called. Shit. I think what's the first Opeth album where they got the guitarist from Arch Enemy? Don't Glue LPs to the Wall?
This is
At my folks' place, I had little mini shelves that held one each.
It's pretty embarrassing stuff I'm about to get into, so I hope that you all are charitable with your understanding, please and thank you. So even in my last year of Christianity, I very much supported gay people and binary trans people, but I basically knew nothing about non-binary people. Within a year of starting my channel, I went to some atheist-related event and there was a non-binary person there. I didn't go out of my way to avoid them, but I didn't make any effort to talk to them because...
What the
I assumed, oh, they won't like me very much. See, I'd picked up the idea that non-binary people claimed that their gender was some kind of strict, objective, scientifically and biologically defined category, that every non-binary gender label corresponded to some set, detectable biological marker. I wasn't against gender nonconformity at all. But I definitely didn't believe that. I assumed that this would somehow come up and that they would get mad at me.
So?
It's like so stupid.
Oh shit! He actually has a death! We're not so different, you and I. He has a death record on his wall. Not the best choice. Okay. What's that? What's that called? That's the faith healer one. Spiritual healing? Yes, he has spiritual healing on his wall.
Is to say it out loud, it's so dumb. Like, I remember thinking those thoughts, and I feel like I'm remembering being an idiot. Not long after this, a friend asked me if I'd met that non-binary person. I said no, and explained why I'd avoided the opportunity. In response, he asked me if I'd ever actually heard a non-binary person argue that point. I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I think I heard that from some armored skeptic type YouTube channel.
I don't know that you did. Granted, I don't watch this shit, and never watch this shit, but I don't think his misunderstanding was a popular explanation of non-binary people.
To think of it. He was like, yeah, that sounds about right. No, man.
That sounds like maybe he's misunderstanding what people say about non-binary people, i.e., it's not okay because, you know, gender and sex are the same thing. There's no separate social construct, so there can't be non-binary people because it would have to correspond to something biological or sets of biological markers. People saying stuff like that, saying that that's what non-binary people believe. Do people ever say that?
Gender is in large part socially constructed, and they just fall outside of the strict binary our culture typically insists upon. That's all they're saying. Your idea of being a man, your gender, it's constructed. Mine is constructed. Theirs is constructed. But it's still very important to our identities and should be respected, right? If you treat them with respect, you're gonna get along fine. I just kind of sat there like...
Oh no. Does he think that means it has no relation to, like it's just a total out of thin air?
Like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. At that point...
Ooh. Are these people still on the level where they think that's like a total counter? They think social contract means like total fabrication rather than the understanding of it is separate from the reality of it, and it is shaped by society. What? It
became clearer to me that while I had some immunity to anti-SJW videos and rhetoric, it wasn't complete. I had picked up my weird ideas about non-binary people from only ever seeing them in anti-SJW videos where they're only ever...
So you're a retard. Thanks for telling me.
...portrayed as angry and irrational so that some dude could dunk on them for clicks.
And you didn't comprehend that that's what you were looking at. So you're literally just spending a prolonged period of time telling us you're a retard.
I was lucky to have a friend that was willing and able to call that out. If you watch me regularly, you'll know that advocating for gender diverse people is a common theme in my content. And I think that my reflections on that time in my life and on that conversation motivates that. I was disillusioned with the ideology with which I was raised, hungry for new ideas and information to provide structure, especially moral structure, to my thinking. Morally unconcerned content creators took advantage of my
morally unconcerned
curiosity and vulnerability by selling me 10-minute segments of moral outrage. No matter how well
what if they think that's the most effective tool to get the outcome they think is correct?
Equipped I was to resist.
What if they're very morally concerned? Now, obviously, tons of them. It is correct that tons of them are not. But this behavior and being morally unconcerned are not.
That it still had some influence.
Intrinsically linked.
On me that unfortunately kept me from befriending some perfectly lovely people. So many young people experience the same curiosity and vulnerability as I did. As much as I can today with my platform, I want...
Like, the way this guy's presented himself is as a cog. He is a thing to be used, and he recognizes that he is just hardware that will accept software based on his conditions. Does it not make sense then that people who are not purely trying to exploit you for personal gain would recognize you as a resource for doing good, and one strategy might be such videos? A true believer could try and radicalize you because they think that's the right thing to do, in other words.
Be that friend or...
And recognize that the thing they have to do is that because you're like a beanbag chair. You're molded by what touches you the hardest. So to convince a person like this, you have to do that to him. You presumably, or he presumably, listened to that person because they were his friend already.
That comment.
So in other words, how should you describe it? Like, there's an element of social proof at play. And there are a ton of people like this guy for whom that is the most important factor. So, if you want to convince people to believe the right things, you may come to the conclusion that the right strategy is one that influences people like him most effectively.
That says, hey, not everyone out here making content has your best interest at heart. They want you mad at people who aren't in the room to defend themselves so that they can make money off you. Let's take a step back and learn about the issue before we lash out at people we don't even know. When I chose my channel name in 2017, I didn't see it as alt-right or anti-SJW.
We lash out at people we don't even know. What effect do you think this video might have on people who are not actually that familiar with the subjects you're presenting? I mean, you characterized Armored Skeptic, and I don't think you ever actually showed us even examples of the things he said that were a problem. Curious.
Skepticism, to me, was...
What effect do you think this video could have? Hypocrite.
Not that. By 2019, though, it became clear to me that left-leaning people often avoided my channel because of the name, while alt-right guys gravitated toward it. I thought about changing it. But it occurred to me that I'm not really here to reach people that already agree with me. Don't I want men on the verge of being radicalized to watch my channel? I thought. Doesn't it serve my goal to have them think I'm one of them, let down their guard?
I don't know if he knows how transparent he is. Even this is like a sort of self-aggrandizement.
A little and listen to someone they would...
This isn't him admitting to being like a subversive mastermind. This is him admitting to having a fantasy of being a subversive mastermind.
Otherwise call an SJW cuck or whatever. So I decided to keep it. I even styled my backdrop after Steven Crowder's to attract those guys even more.
This isn't real. This is a bit. This is a bit. This is a bit. This is a bit. This ain't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real.
Yes, if you ever thought that my red brick background kinda looked, conspiracy-brained, alt-right...
I'm gonna be real. If you showed me this setup and asked me to guess what kind of YouTuber he was, I would guess Mario Maker speedrunner.
Steven Chowdhury, you know, all that. Yeah, you were right. That was the intention. Ever since, I've thought about my channel as a bit of a Trojan horse. The alt-right sees white skeptic guy, lets me in, then gets hit with what is hopefully de-radicalizing content, regardless of, you know, the topic that I'm discussing.
This is so fucking embarrassing, man.
This has worked, especially on trans issues, according to some comments that I've gotten, at least. Although, at this point, I think
My social activism is working, I know, because of the YouTube comments. Holy genuinely no idea. He doesn't even know how retarded he is. This is an incredible little time capsule. Holy fucking
the
shit.
right is on to me. I get a lot of flouncing comments these days, so it was fun while it lasted. To close, I'm going to recommend some of my favorite channels that absolutely skepticism, critical thinking, fact-checking stuff.
Place your bets. Place your bets, chat. With the amount of projection, with the amount of accusing others of being what the people he likes and what he is, ContraPoints is a good shout because of the political aesthetics point. Let's summarize what he's saying as political aesthetics. People being propagandized through vibes strategy that he critiqued alt-righters for. It would be really funny if he shouts out ContraPoints immediately, because I believe ContraPoints is an example of someone who says openly that, yes, that's their strategy.
But could never be allowed to exist within the orthodox skeptic brand. Kaz Rowe and their history
Never mind.
That
Okay.
absolutely destroy right-wing narratives about sex and gender. Also, fantastic set and costuming. Matt
This YouTube video destroys the right wing.
Bernstein and his podcast A Bit
I feel like I've seen him show up regarding a drama.
Fruity. The only content that has anything to do with celebrities that I will ever ingest. Katie Montgomery, someone I've known about for a while but have only recently really been binge watching. She debunks bad arguments that so-called skeptics love to spout about trans people. She's really impressive, very talented at speaking.
You say you're a skeptic, but you don't believe the current trans narrative?
Debating, that kind of thing. And Taylor Lorenz, who now has a YouTube channel. And
I would never have guessed. That's so good.